Me. Put your hand up again if you're going to spend Thanksgiving with family. Okay. Our prayer chaplains will be available after the service to pray with you before you go. Harmony, love, breathing, all very important to do when we are looking at getting together with families sometimes, especially since this election has happened. I'm sure there should be interesting conversations all over the planet, actually, not only here. How many people are planning to have a typical Thanksgiving meal? Okay. Well, you might be surprised to discover what a typical Thanksgiving meal actually was. They don't really meet the traditional standards that we think that they are. The original Thanksgiving feast was a harvest festival. It was more like a party atmosphere designed to celebrate surviving another year. And they were actually 3-day rambunctious parties with a lot of drinking going on. Here's the most likely menu given to us by the historians from Plymouth Plantation. Codfish, sea bass, ducks, geese, swans. Did you ever have a swan? I never. Wild turkeys, cornmeal, and venison, the contribution from the Indians bringing deer. There were no butterballs, no cranberry, no cider, no tea, no coffee, no pie. But they did have beer and a wonderful brandy-type drink called aquavita. Children didn't drink milk. They had beer along with everybody else. So much for the idea of teetotaling pilgrims. There were very few vegetable dishes. They didn't even have a word for vegetable back then. They had turnips, onions, carrots. They had the root vegetables, but no potatoes, apples, sweet corn, no celery, no olives, nothing else. They just had that very rough meat and beer and brandy. They had shellfish, but it was considered to be a poverty food and inappropriate for the harvest, so there was no lobster. When it came time to eat, they sat at long benches, they had bowls, and then they took their knives and they dug in. They didn't have forks. Forks didn't come till later with the Europeans. So how many of us are going to have an authentic Thanksgiving dinner with polenta, cod, and swans? A lot of beer. As with so much of our American heritage, a lot of what we know about Thanksgiving is the creation of storytellers, fertile imaginations created to romanticize and clean up history in a form that feels comfortable for us today. And the most telling example of inauthenticity is the use of the word pilgrim. Pilgrim wasn't a word that was invented until around the American Revolution. They called themselves first comers. They didn't wear big buckles. They didn't wear those hats in black. They wore very colorful clothing. They didn't use those big barrel thunder guns for killing deer or anything else. That would put a big hole in them and they would blow their meat away. They used it to quell riots if there were riots after drinking all that aquavita, I guess. So what's the point of all this? What are we supposed to make from this mythology of the pilgrims? Well, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or miraculous Bible stories, they seem to reveal that for some of these people that we hold in our imagination were somehow better, somehow holier, or it's just there was a different time and it was so much better than it is now. That God liked these people somehow more than God likes us at this moment. Like, why did all the cool miracles happen thousands of years ago? There's no miracles happening right now. It's just day-to-day existence. For many of us in American churches, if we discover that a minister or a rabbi or a priest is human and makes errors, oh my God. A church can almost fall apart over that. Well, thankfully we're in unity and we know that ministers are very human. If you don't know that, ask my staff. They'll be happy to tell you just how human I am. It's so funny. One day in Lincoln Center when I was in New York working with Eric Butterworth, I was about to go down the aisle to take my seat, and a woman came up. She was looking for a bulletin. I said, I believe the ushers down the aisle have one for you. And she stopped. She looked at me, and she said, are you Paul? I said, yes. And she started crying. She just burst into tears. She said, I can't believe I'm looking into your eyes. And she ran down the aisle. This is what happens when people make more of who you are. One time I was in the greeting line at Avery Fisher Hall, and a woman came through and said, "Who are you?" I said, "I just spoke." You recognize the beard? And she said, "That was you? You look so much taller up there." And now I'm down here. Like how that worked. There's kind of an interesting connection there. Well, they did a survey, a Christian church organization did a survey. They asked church members all over the country to describe the typical minister. And they compiled all the results, all the answers into one form. And here's what they got. It said a typical minister should be in the office 10 to 12 hours a day, always on call for anyone who needed them, even at 3 a.m., spend 4 hours a week working on their sermons, spend 6 hours a day counseling, do 3 weddings a month, funerals and christenings when called, and take time enough to do spiritual renewal. When? See, this indicates that this is an illusion about what ministers do. For a lot of people, you come Sunday morning, it's like, oh, I wrote my talk for a while, and I got up and I did this. This is all I do during the week, outside of going and doing everything else that we need to do to run a spiritual center. In our collective American consciousness, we see the tip of the iceberg, and we think this is the way it is. Or we think about the past as being better than today. It was better then. We think about the past as something that our ancestors did better. That there was something magical and romantic and holier about what they accomplished than what we were doing today. We tend to think those really were the good old days. We think those were the good old days because they were simpler, because we heard people were happier then, because we heard people cared more about each other then. We heard that America was greater then by our current president-elect. The good old days is one of the biggest lies we've ever heard, because there were no good old days. Because it implies that the best has already happened. I still think America's pretty great. Always has been. Has never fallen down. We are a nation of people who love this place, so of course it's wonderful. But the good old days had its challenges, as we know. And as we grow and raise in consciousness, it becomes better and better. But it implied that God was working then and God is not working now. That somehow God is angry at us, or God got older and forgot we were here, or God never existed in the first place. It implies that there is nothing to be grateful for anymore. Did you ever wonder why the Bible miracles stopped? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Why did God create all those wonderful miracles like parting the sea, Jesus walking on water, talking donkeys, burning oil in a lamp that should have gone out after 1 day and lasted 8? Again, miracles were proof that something was of God, and the more miraculous it was, the more holy it was, and the more God loved us. In our unity teachings, we know that miracles are the natural outpicturing of divine law. That does not make sense to one or all of our 6 senses. It just means something happened wonderful in perfect alignment with law that we just don't know how. Healing happens because God is at the very core of our being. God is in every single atom of our being. And wholeness is our natural right simply because we are creations of spirit. You were born to be healthy and whole no matter what you're going through. If you've been going through it for a while, you may think this is kind of the new normal, that this is the way it should be or has to be. No, it doesn't. Change your thinking, change your mind, and watch your life and your body and everything in your life turn around. The medical profession calls wholeness that shouldn't have happened a remission because they don't have a name for it. They don't have a name for healing in that way. And so we must have read the blood work wrong, or we must have been at fault because obviously things are going well. But we're going to wait for a while and see if this is true. So we're going to call it remission and not call it a healing. Health and wealth are divine ideas of God. We are meant to have health and wealth were actually one word at a long time ago. These are your natural right as a creation of spirit. For example, how does a woman on welfare in Scotland become the second most wealthy woman after the Queen? That seems miraculous, doesn't it? That shouldn't have happened. How did that happen? She was sitting and she was writing ideas on a napkin in a cafe. She followed the divine idea that popped into her mind. She said, Harry Potter just walked into my mind fully formed. She said, I knew how it was going to be 7 books and that the last book would wrap everything up, and I knew how it was going to end. She said, I didn't know how we were going to get there. But the miracle that Harry Potter was right there in her mind. Now, she could have said, oh, that's a good idea, and then complained that it wouldn't really work anyway. That's impossible. How am I going to do this? Nobody wants to buy my children's book. I'm on welfare. Who am I to think I'm going to succeed as a writer? I don't know anybody who's going to publish this book. Harry Potter is a miracle story because she went ahead and did what she received from Spirit. A woman in a concentration camp in World War II had a dream that her father was telling her to hide in a certain place in the camp. It was so very clear. She woke up and she went into hiding, and she was the only person who didn't get killed through this mass execution that went on. Is that a miracle? Of course it is. What miracles do we think are not available to us, through us, for us? Somebody came to me at Unity of New York one day and said that her friend was getting ready to go to work, and her child was throwing a temper tantrum saying, you're not going to work. This child was one of the calmest, most even-keeled children she said you'd ever want to meet. He was throwing himself on the floor. He was having a fit. He was crying. He was screaming. He was turning red. He was pounding the floor. She said, okay, I won't go. That was September 11th, 2001. The woman worked in Building 2 in the second tower. There has never been a lack of God in our lives, except when the belief is, well, God is not for me. I guess I'm not doing this right. I guess God doesn't love me. I think this is not happening. I'm all alone here trying to make it by myself. God is waiting within all of us for us to give permission for Spirit to move forward with our lives. If we keep affirming something different, we're not giving God permission. I can't heal from this. I can't succeed from this. Nobody's going to buy my book. Nobody's going to love me ever, etc., etc., etc. And we're the ones who are calling our lives either successful or not. No matter what your health problem you may currently be going through, God is the healing power within you. No matter what your financial state might be, you might be calling it financial ruin, but God does not have that. That's not a God idea. God is my source, not my job. My family is not my source. My coworkers are not the lottery is not my source. I only have one source, God. I have many channels available for God to work through. In fact, in Silent Unity, our check would come in on the envelope. It says, God is my source, and I bless Silent Unity as one channel of that good. It was a great reminder. Stop ingesting words of fear like there are no jobs available. The economy is still terrible. Stop saying that. There is no money to pay my bills. Shall we affirm that together? No, of course not, but we do anyway. There's too much month left at the end of my money. We have to get out of that frame of mind and know that God has many ways of bringing the money. If you have a desire for it, God has it available. No matter what your relationships may seem to be today, God is divine love and harmony within you, and God can bring forth healing for even the most acrimonious relationships. We have to call on the power and know that Spirit is at work. And when I call forth love, I become divine love, and I am the change in that relationship. The thing we have to do is change our minds about the seeming reality of that which seems to be impossible. If we call something impossible, we are the ones who have created that miracle. The miracle of impossibility. The Bible reminds us nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible for God. Nothing. Only for me. We hear this, we read this, but we just don't believe it. Well, believe it today. Change your mind and say, I will begin to believe this truth. Nothing is impossible for God to accomplish in my life. Nothing is impossible for God to accomplish in my life. Affirm that with me. Nothing is impossible for God to accomplish in my life. Breathe that in. Nothing. No matter what you've been holding as impossible, it isn't. I declare it, and I'm not giving God permission. That's the only thing going on. So I'd like to give you a Thanksgiving recipe that you can work with this week to help you know that God is here and God is continuing to do miraculous things through us. Take a heart full of gratitude, add to it a soul full of joy, a big dash of humor, and a gallon of compassion for yourself and others. Then let God do the cooking. You just accept these are the truth of who you are. And then you serve it to everybody you meet this week. Joy, gratitude, humor, and compassion. The result will be a life that is healthy, prosperous, loving, joyful, mainly fearless, and creatively rewarding beyond anything you could imagine. And it'll make Thanksgiving a lot easier when you divinely detach from what's being said. Let opinions be opinions. You know your truth. You know what you believe. You know what your life is about. Simply let people be. Nod your head and say, what about those Seahawks? And let it be. And let it be. Joy and gratitude combines as a powerful combination of spiritual powers within you to help heal our lives. So we break it down a little bit. Joy is the realization that everything in the universe is conspiring to make you happy. Everything desires your happiness, your joy, and your creative outlet. Am I willing to lift myself up in this wonderful vibration, this wonderful high energy, and let it happen? God is scheming to make your life a really good one. Do we really believe that? As I said before, there are some people here, lovely though you are, come through the line at the end and go, you look so unhappy. Why the unhappiness? This is joyful. When you have the realization that God and I are one, this is exciting. This is why I've been doing this work for 25 years. This is mind-blowing. And you come through the line, some of you, not all of you. A lot of you are very joyful. I love the hugs. I'm Italian, so if you're coming through line, expect to get a hug. If you don't, go to the other line and wave as you go through. I will hug you. Scandinavian, I don't do that to me. But at least look pleasant. Look me in the eye at least when you wave. You don't have to look at the floor. What? You're a child of God. You're powerful. You're joyful. You're good. Look at me. And I'm going to make everybody look at me before next year is out, I believe it. We live and move and have our being in joy, in love. Begin to believe it and begin to act like that, and you will become a magnet for that which you're looking for. You cannot find your good if you're looking at the ground. I'm an introvert. Believe me, I understand what being an introvert's about. But get over it. I did. If I can do it, you can do it too. Show up for your good. Say, hello, I'm here. Be an introvert at home. Absolutely fine. The difference between introvert and extrovert doesn't mean shy. Introvert means I get my energy from going within. Extroverts get their energy from outside. That's why we have very loud, happy, joyful people that introverts go, oh my God, and we begin to shiver and quake and moan. It's because we do it differently. But it doesn't mean that we can't be friendly and be outgoing and affirm the good that we're looking for is here now. A lot of actors, believe it or not, are introverts. We're joyful, goofy, and everything on stage, and once we get off, it's like, oh my God, I just need a nap now. Where an extroverted actor will then want to go party for 5 more hours. That's the only difference. So don't lose your energy. Keep your energy lifted up, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Be who you are, proudly, joyfully, powerfully. So if this is God's universe, and it is God's universe, and all this good is swimming in and around me, and I'm immersed in this wonderful divine abundance, why do I seem to be without? That is just so confusing. If I know this to be my truth, why do I seem to be without? Because what's happening is you put yourself into a bubble. I put myself into a bubble. We do this often. And we keep the good. All the good is for everybody else, not for me. I'm looking down. I need to look up. It's my responsibility to claim the good, and I have to use my voice, the voice that I have from Spirit, to firmly acclaim and decree, demand, and know this is mine. As a spiritually aware, awakened person, it's up to me to accept the good, and I have to do that boldly. It might be uncomfortable for you to do it, but you've got to step forward and accept the good that is yours. Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and life abundantly, not to believe in him as a person, but to tap into that wonderful God self that he was tapped into already. I do that by consciously living my life as if it's one big party given just for me. That's the fifth of our belief system, our basic beliefs. It used to be called, well, some people still use it, I know the truth and I go forward to do it. That isn't enough. That's a Nike commercial. Just do it. Well, yeah, who doesn't believe just do it? But in unity, we believe that life is a party. Life is a celebration, and it's up to me to show up. Or as Stretton Smith says in the 4T program, I have to go to the buffet. Nobody's going to come wait on me. The buffet, everything's waiting for me. I have to get my dish and go up and get it. If you're just staring at the ground waiting for a waiter to come along, you're going to be waiting for a long time. We have to get up and enjoy our lives and really participate in it. Jesus is my main teacher. I don't worship Jesus. I celebrate him and all the wonderful teachings that he's given us. The first miracle he performed in his public ministry was to turn water to wine at a wedding. Why? Why did he do this? He did it so people could continue to party. That's all. That's the only reason he turned water to wine. Woohoo! Not to say, well, now you will believe in me. It's like, no. He said, let's continue. Let's continue the party. It's a celebration. We're here to celebrate. This is a great realization. We're here to celebrate who and what we are. Life is not a root canal. It's a celebration. And I see you were leading the opening song. You look like you were about to have a root canal. Rejoice, rejoice. You first. We have to do this. We have to get into our bodies, into our very souls. Imagine going to see a show where there's no energy from any of the actors. We've been to a number of those before, believe me. They are deadly dull, and you just can't. What time is it? We can't wait for it to be over. When you go to a show where the actors are alive and they're having such a great time, my God, it flies by so quickly. Hamilton. They were so involved. The show felt like 10 minutes to me. It was astonishing. They were so in the joy of doing what they were doing. It was mind-blowing. So we have to enjoy our lives if our lives are going to work in that way. Remember, I shared a few weeks ago, St. Francis. They got the giggles. He and his brothers got the giggles, and they were rolling down the hill in the snow. They could barely breathe. They were laughing so hard. And one of the visiting monks who was thinking about joining them was appalled. And they said, well, look, if you can't do this, you can't join us, because you obviously don't get what we're doing here. It's all about joy. It's all about celebrating who we are. So your job, your assignment this week is to do something that brings joy. So I want you to go to a toy store and buy a toy for yourself. When was the last time you bought a toy for yourself? Saying, oh, this would be fun to play with. Oh, even if you do it in your bedroom and lock the door, who cares? Or buy a book that's ostensibly for children that looks like it would be kind of a fun read for me today to get into the inner child thing. Buy a Harry Potter book. If you've never read Harry Potter, get the first book. Oh my gosh. It's so creative. It's so exciting. Take a class in cooking or writing or wine tasting. Do something that is really fun for yourself. So that's your assignment for this week. The second part of the recipe is gratitude. Sometimes we wonder, what is there to be grateful for? I can't even really think of anything. My body may be falling apart, or my work is not well, my family's arguing with each other. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Think of the person who means the most to you in the world. Just bring them to mind. What would your life look like without this person? What if this person never existed? What did they teach you about you? What do you feel when you think about him or her? Be with that feeling just for a moment. Okay, open your eyes. This person that you brought to mind is the person you most let God in you mirror. That person powerfully reflects the God that you don't see in the mirror. You just see this person. But the other person that you love and hold in light, that you brought to your mind, that is God showing up in the flesh. And that's who you are as well. For that, we're really and truly grateful, because it gives a real clear understanding that God appears in our lives as those who we love, as our health, as our abundance, as our creativity, as your dog or your cat. There's no more holy being on the planet than your pet, because they're so guileless, they're so authentic. They show up as your partner or spouse, as your favorite song, as your favorite singer. Is God showing up everywhere? We just don't recognize it or acknowledge it. This is God. This is God showing up in this way. That current blessing that you have in your life, as large or small as they are, is God showing up too. Think for a moment of the 5 biggest blessings you have in your life. Go. Time's up. Did you come up with 5? If 5 weren't immediately apparent to you, we need to do more meditating. You need to get more in touch with all the blessings that are here currently. So the second part of your assignment, we began 2 weeks ago. I gave you a list, a Thanksgiving gratitude list, to write everything down from now till Thanksgiving as to what you're grateful for. If you're going to be here Wednesday, bring that with you, and we're going to do something with that. So the first one is do something really fun. Buy a toy, buy a book. Do something this week that's really fun and joyful. And the second is continue or begin a Thanksgiving list of what makes your heart sing, what makes you glad to be alive here. Take a breath. Close your eyes. Go to your heart. Thank you, God, for my good health. Thank you, God, for overflowing prosperity. Thank you, God, for those I love, for wonderful memories, for creating new ones, for all the good that is here and all the good that is coming forth. It's right now. Holy gratitude in our hearts. Let's begin our meditation process by singing our way into the quiet.
Closing my eyes, time to begin, feeling this moment, turning within, closing my eyes, turning within, drawing a breath, knowing I'm whole, gently releasing, letting it go, drawing a breath, letting it go, drawing a breath,
Letting it go. Continue breathing into the quiet, into the place where you are completely safe, loved, held by the light of love and joy. There's nothing to be afraid of. If there's any anxiety or doubt, leave it outside for a little bit. You don't need it right now. But we focus on gratitude. I invite you to go back to the place of blessing where you were letting God bring up those wonderful blessings in your life. What are you grateful for? Your home, your friends, your family, your pets, your work, your creativity, the spiritual center. There's so much to be grateful for. But being in the midst of challenge and fear can seem to erase all that. Today we let that go. There's nothing to be afraid of when we know that God and I are one. Only one power, one presence, actively at work in the universe and in my life, God the good. So my work today is to focus only on light, love, peace, joy, gratitude, all the good of God. When we are filled with God, light, and love, there is no room for anything else. Everything else is just a concept, an idea, an illusion. That perhaps things were better at one time and they aren't anymore. The truth is God is here right now. Always has been, always will be. Will I accept the good that God is? The good is overflowing into my body and my mind as health, as strength, as renewed energy. Thank you, God, for vibrant health. I am healed and whole. Thank you, God, for vibrant health. I am healed and whole. Breathe that in. Breathe into any pain, any discomfort, any anxiety. Let it be so. There is more than enough abundance for every child of God on the planet. There is no lack or limitation in God's mind. Therefore, it's an illusion I've created or I bought into that there's not enough. The truth is there's more than enough. Every need of yours is being fulfilled when you say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for overflowing prosperity. I am blessed. Thank you, God, for overflowing prosperity. I am blessed right now. And it shows up perfectly in the right time, in the right way. Thank you, God, for a wonderful life. My life is good and getting better as I hold to the truth that I am a spiritual being having a human adventure. And that God truly is at work, and I give God full permission to move into my mind, my body, my life, my career, my bank account, my relationships. Breathe into the quiet. Breathe into God and allow God, in the silence of our being, just for a few moments, to reveal, I am here, I am at work, and all is truly well in my life. Take a gentle breath. Fill in your lungs and breathe out. Take another breath and return to this time and place. And breathe out. Take one more breath. Open your eyes. And we are grateful. And so it is.